As 10-year-olds, we definitely were not familiar with the book The Illustrated Man, but when reading through the problems, we did find this one rather interesting once we found the subject matter of the cover of Bradbury's books. I mean, a man covered in tattoos is pretty cool for an artist to approach. We realized quickly that the subject matter of the most of these short stories was maybe a little above our reading level and definitely on topics we usually don't discuss much at our age. But each of them could be simplified into some pretty general ideas, and with those themes can come some visual that could symbolize ideas from each story. So we decided to give it a shot.
As a group, we knew we wanted to make some sort of book with the man emerging from it. Obviously, we would want to cover him in tattoos, but we weren't exactly sure how at first. We wanted to try and approach the ideas of the story. We weren't sure if we wanted to include the part of the fortune teller, and we toyed with the ideas, but ultimately we decided to really focus on the illustrated man himself, and of course the symbols hidden in the tattoos. We've created we created a book using foam board and fabric, and in the end acrylic paint. The book would act as a stand for the man so that he could emerge from it. We ended up naming our man Jeffrey, and he is created out of a lot of different materials and a lot of different parts that we put together slowly.
To create Jeffrey, we started by making a mold using duct tape and an old t-shirt of one of our group members, Isabella. We stuffed the bust of Isabella with brown craft paper and duct taped it up. We used a similar approach to creating the arms by using members of our group arms and then stuffing the paper in that as well. For the hands, we actually used latex gloves that we stuffed and paper mache. And for the head, we paper mache a balloon. Each piece was created and paper mache and then attached and paper mache together. Lots of paper macheing for sure.
After that, we really approached the 3D tattoos. We knew we wanted to make it look kind of a relief sculpture and have some tattoos flat like in real life, but we wanted to have some tattoos popping out three-dimensionally, and we thought this would be an interesting and creative approach to the tattoo game. Again, we went through our stories and our scenes in the symbols that would had kind of thought about and continued to brainstorm until we knew which ones we would like to make the focus. We used magazine paper, masking tape, and some pipe cleaners to create the 3D tattoos that you can see on our man. We then hot glued them on and paper mache them for strength.
The drawing of the tattoos and the painting is what took us a while. We also chose to add a few more three-dimensional ideas using construction paper. Class after class after class, we spent drawing and painting tattoos and making sure that we were sticking to our ideas and developing them into a finished piece of art. We also created a backtrack on a canvas. We wanted to put this We wanted this to pull the piece together and also leave a little bit of mystery in it. We included blank dream clouds and question marks to show the unsanitary. All in all, we are very pleased with how well we worked in a collaborative group and how the project turned out. We loved using all these different materials and getting to explore art in a new way. It was a very interesting process and something that really enhanced our art experience.
I will tell you, as the teacher for this illustration group, I did not picture them picking this category because I was not familiar with the illustrated man, so I knew they probably were not either. When they did decide to pick it and I read through the stories, I realized that it was a very mature subject matter, but through their research and their brainstorming, I really liked and appreciated how they were simplifying the ideas and using the symbolizing the kind of themes into visual representations for their 3D tattoos and their flat tattoos that they were going to create on their man, who we have very fondly started calling Jeffrey. This group spent a long time reading summaries of the stories rather than the actual whole stories themselves, and trying to figure out how they could be simplified into one or two visual representations. They ultimately settled on eyeballs and clouds, airplanes, rocket ships, lions, maps and directions and things like that, which I thought was a really creative and simple way of approaching this, and would also work well as a tattoo on a man because they didn't want it to be too complicated, and with the time constraints would be able to actually finish their project. As they began working, it was very clear that they were going to work well as a team. It was a very quiet team, and they had this very nice, calm presence about them, but they took on a lot of work. Creating this sculpture for a lot of them was the first 3D work they had ever done, and I think the time it took to make each piece was a little bit more than they had expected. I appreciated their way of divvying up the jobs and everybody kind of supporting each other and switching around so they each had their hand in the different parts of this project and were able to complete a beautiful piece of work that really is true to the story, but in a more elementary type of way, which is appropriate for their age level. I mean, most of them are 9 and 10 years old. They definitely did a lot of paper macheing through the whole process. They were like, oh no, more goop, more goop, more goop. But I think it paid off, and I've seen that not only have they grown as artists in creative arts, but they're also becoming leaders in my classroom, and they're the students that the other fifth graders kind of turn to when they have questions to help them problem solve or conceptualize their ideas. It's always very interesting to me when I get a group of creative arts students because they do kind of stand out in the crowd, and the experience that they have kind of gives them this confidence moving forward that is not only seen by me and the other staff members, but also recognized by their peers. The illustration group was definitely very meticulous. They spent a lot of time discussing and deciding on their ideas before they began. They put a lot of thought into each part of their project and really stuck to their plan without deviating too much. I think if I could change one thing for this group, it would be to give them more time. They could have used an extra 2 or 3 weeks. They really wanted to just get into all the details in their tattoos, and I think because of the time constraint, they felt a little rushed at the end, and were really working up to the wire to get it done. I know as perfectionists, they wanted more, and they really wanted, this man to be covered head to waist, because we didn't go all the way to the toe because he's emerging from the book. But I think they're really happy with their work. I think given more time, they would keep going because they seemed like they didn't want to stop. But the Olympics are here, so we're finishing, and they're excited about how it all turned out, and they should be really proud of what they accomplished.